Well, I do love that song, and I know the next one I'm going to play has deep significance for you. You mentioned your father being a singer. You know, you have a song called "My Father's Voice" on your "Happy This Way" album, and you know, what was his musical background? Because he wasn't just some ordinary run-of-the-mill vocalist.
No, he was a tenor at Royal Opera House, Covent Garden for 35 years, and he was a good Welshman. My mum and dad left Wales so that he could pursue his career as an opera singer, and he was. It was an amazingly privileged upbringing because of that. I mean, musically privileged, you know, because my sister and I would spend every weekend. We had probably most weekends we would be at the Opera House Saturday morning seeing the dress rehearsal, and he was incredible. I mean, I make a joke about this, but it's sort of like I feel like I started at the top and been working my way back downwards ever since. It was the height, the greatest place musically to be initiated into, and like a little sponge like you are as a kid, it all went in.
Yeah.
And I think that's where my emotional core came from, is, you know, that I'd be sort of like beaming as the overture was playing, and then of course being opera, and, you know, being that everybody would die in it usually and be dead on the end of the opera, I'd be, you know, sort of crying my way through it. And it's such moving, exquisite music. So it just made me laugh and appreciate being allowed, again, feeling big feelings, being allowed to feel joy, being allowed to feel sadness, crying, all those things. And and my sister and I as little girls, you know, it was incredible being privy to that. And so my dad, I needed, as time went on, and so many things don't get said in life, and so much is said in the silences, you know, as we all know those great silences where you wish to God you could say what you really felt, but you can't because it's so painful. You think you might just burst into tears and lose it. And I wanted to tell my dad how important he was to me and to my sister, and what he meant, and what it meant to us knowing that my dad, every morning when we would wake up, literally, as it says in the song, we'd hear him warm up and doing his scales and singing and preparing to go off to Covent Garden. And it meant that life was okay, and that there was security, and there was something safe in our lives, because our mother was so ill, or so depressed from such an early age, and that we thought, you know, you think as a kid that that's normal and that's the norm, but it wasn't. Of course, it was not normal at all. But my dad and his love of music, the way his face lit up when he sang, it was everything I wanted. But it meant joy, it meant happiness, it meant escape, and he was the role model for us, as in he meant safety and that everything was secure. And it was so important to have that when you have a parent, when you have a parent who's not well. It's so very vital to have something that means safety and continuity. You know, it's so important to kids, as you know. It's so terribly important to feel like your life is secure and there's something strong and safe, and especially when you know that there's something that is so frightening and you're so terrified that something bad is going to happen. So I really needed to tell him this, and I of course couldn't say it in words, because, you know, as is so very British, we were great talking about gardening and Labradors and the weather, because that's how British people get through life, is really talking about things like that. But I couldn't tell him for real, because it was too painful. It's too painful sometimes to say these things, but I can always say things in music. That's, I think, the reason I started in the first place. I could say these things when it was couched in music. So I wrote My Father's Voice, and it's literally what I've just said, which was saying to him how special he was, how special his voice was, what it meant to me, hearing it every day meant that it was going to be okay and life was going to be all right, and that there was one part of our life that was secure and safe. And I will never forget the first time I played it to him in a show in London, in a live performance. The first time he heard it, what it meant, how it changed our relationship for the better, how after that I never felt like I was worried that there was anything I needed to say to him because I'd said it all.
You sure did. Well, let's listen to it. From her 2007 Happy This Way album, here's Judith Owen with My Father's Voice.
Oh, my father's voice was a very special thing. And when I went to sleep, I knew I'd wake to hear him sing. And every morning when he'd warm up, there was hope that it would bring. In the joy in his face when he reached that hallowed place, and I made my choice. I chose my father's voice. My father's voice was a very special thing, and in our house of mirrors there was safety it would bring. And in the clouds above my bedroom, they would part and show me a spring. And my pride reached its fill, and my sadness lost its will, and I had no choice but to choose my father's voice. Oh, my father's voice is still a very special thing, yet he doesn't seem to understand the pleasure that it brings to all my friends who love him when he sings old Christmas hymns. And I'm proud and I'm pleased that through him they must see me. I'm the acorn, he's the oak, heart-strung girl, heartfelt blow. Oh, I have no choice, I am my father's voice.
So let's bring it back now to Ebb and Flow and the gig you've got coming up on October 8th at the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles, where you'll be joined on stage by Russ, Lee, and Waddy, a.k.a. The Section. I assume the bulk of the set is going to be from the new album, but are you going to slip anything else in there along with it?
I think I'll probably concentrate mostly on the record, on the album, because there's going to be like an hour of Q&A with the guys and myself, and as I said, Pedro will also be there from London, my beautiful percussionist, which is amazing in and of itself, but we're recording here right now. Mm-hmm. So I think after that, then, it'd be great to have an opportunity to actually talk about this and talk about how this came together with the guys, and then we'll be performing. So we'll do the songs. Mm-hmm. We will do the songs from Ebb and Flow, and let's see, if somebody asks for an encore, then maybe I'll just do something.
Well, can I make a suggestion?
As a bonus, yeah.
I think you should do A Penny for Your Thoughts, and you should have Lee sing Corky's part.
Can I just tell you right now, Dan, that will never happen.
Well, I bet
I just want to tell you right now, not to build yourself up too much for this. Don't get excited. It's not going to happen. Not without the yam, anyway. But no, I have a certain thought of something that I might well do with Lee as a duet,
okay,
as an encore. But I'll leave it like that. But it's one of our favorite things
Nice.
that we do together, and will certainly be on the next album. Yeah.
Well, for our listeners to purchase tickets for this concert and to find out more about the facility itself, go to GrammyMuseum.org. Tickets are only $20, with the proceeds going to benefit the museum. I know we have a lot of listeners in the LA area, so it'd be crazy to miss out on this opportunity to see such high-caliber musicians in such an intimate setting at such a reasonable price. I mean, if you've got other plans for the evening, I'd sure like to know what they are. Just so I can
point out that, because there is, the reason we're there is because there's this whole retrospective, California Dreaming, Sounds of Laurel Canyon.
Right.
So, of course, when the Grammy people, then we connected the dots, and they realized this is the record that I'd done with these guys. It's like, oh, for God's sake, this is ridiculous. So it's kind of a really amazing evening that there is both that exhibit that will be happening in the very area that they were then going into the Clive Davis Theatre and doing this show. So it's I'm very excited. I really, really am, Dan. I'm really looking forward to it.
And for people disappointed that they can't catch this is kind of an 11th hour thing here, but I saw Steve Lee put on Facebook some tour dates in London, Dublin, Brussels, Amsterdam. That's November of this year, and then Birmingham, Glasgow, York, London, some other shows in March of next year, which will also include Lee, Russ, and Waddy. So over there in Europe, they're coming to you.
They are indeed. You're going to probably see them over there more than you will over here. But, all I can say is Christmas time, you know where you should be this year. That's all I can say.
Right on. Yeah. Well, the last song I'm going to play is from your 2008 Mopping Up Karma album, the cover of which features a picture of you with a mop and bucket sitting in an old wooden chair in front of a red curtain wearing a black Victorian dress that's so massive below the waist that you could probably hide the entire road crew for Spinal Tap under there.
It's true.
Can you talk us through that cover and what it's meant to signify?
Yeah, I do. I always sort of design all my own covers and come up with the ideas for everything, as most, sort of controlling OCD artists do. But the idea of that, it's a line from a song of mine that I have a particular love of called Who's That Girl? And the line is, she was a girl who loved drama, but today she's just mopping up karma. And so on the front, who you're seeing is how do I describe myself on the front? I look like Britannia. If you know what Britannia is, it's on the British coins. It's basically rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves, and she's sitting there. Britannia was a sort of symbol of being this sort of figurehead, very sort of powerful woman, female. So I'm sitting on the front looking like Britannia, and Britannia holds this incredible spear, and then she holds a spear in one hand and this incredible shield in the other, and instead of the spear, of course, I've literally got a mop in a bucket. And that was, to me, that again is like, that's just the that's how I see myself, which is being somebody who is this very strong and powerful Celt, this strong Welsh woman who has enough of a sense of self and humor to know that I'm basically, I'm all mouth and no trousers, as I like to call it. And basically, it's just that I have a very strong a very strong armored outside and a very emotional and soft insides. And I think that's really the point of that cover and the point of that title.
Yeah, I appreciate that explanation. It's a quite striking image.
I'm very proud of that cover shot. I must say it's very powerful. It's very funny, and I love the idea of the name because it really is me. It's like I've spent my life mopping up the mess that you just it just you don't choose the world you come into, you don't choose the family you come into, you don't choose to have the brain chemistry that you get, but you just end up having to take care of and mop up the mess. That's the job. Is that you get dealt the cards you get dealt, and then you have to deal with it. Then you figure out what to do with it. And my job has basically been with my trusty mop.
Well, my job is giving everybody your website. Now, the song I'm going to play for Mopping Up Karma is different stylistically from the other ones I've played. I just wanted to do it to demonstrate your versatility. But first, let's get that website out, judithowen.net, not .com, JUDITHOWEN.net. There's a ton of useful information on the site, including upcoming tour dates, discography info, a lot of cool video content, and the Christmas information will be there, as we've discussed. I want to encourage everybody to rush right out and get Ebb and Flow if you don't have it already. And then after you do, I strongly advise you to go back and explore, the earlier albums, which are excellent as well. Because if you like what you heard today, there's plenty more where that came from, I can assure you. Well, Judith, on behalf of my listeners and myself, I want to thank you for sharing your insights and your stories and, of course, all your wonderful music with us. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and you're welcome back anytime.
Oh, this has been wonderful. I've really enjoyed it, and this is sort of like an 8-parter. I know we've spoken so much, but it's been a real pleasure.
This podcast was recorded at Mojo Recording Studio in Phoenix, Arizona. It was engineered by Mike Post. Once again, I'd like to thank Judith Owen, Lee Sklar, Bruce Geitch, Gabriella Swallow, and Harry Shearer. Special thanks to Pam Halstead for her assistance arranging this interview. We're going to close the show now with that track from Mopping Up Karma, in which Judith is going to encourage us all to get into it. Sounds like good advice to me. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time. So long, everybody.
Get into it. Into it, baby. I've been down in such a dark place. I've been a phony and a fool, just to please everybody who said that they love me, and I spat out the food that I was too afraid to swallow. I've been locked up in this attic, this jealous lover of a brain, and I've tried so hard to get a little sunshine. Yes, I've tried so hard to break the cycle of pain. 'Cause this muscle man on the beach, surface down in surfing heaven. If I was in their reach, I would surely tell them, get into it, baby, and do whatever you can. Come on, get into it, baby. Yeah. Every woman, every man, enjoy your life. Yeah. I was talking with a legend. Was feeling like a young fool around about 14. I asked him of his secret to success. He said, each day's a lesson and life is your school. 'Cause there's beauty out on the street. It's concrete, but it could be heaven. There's so much for you to see, so get out there and tell them. Get into it, baby, and do whatever you can. Come on, get into it, baby. Yeah. Every woman, every man, enjoy your life. To see my old school. There were houses well stood full of people full of worries. I said goodbye to my old school and my old life. I got on a plane, I was going in a hurry back to muscle man on the beach, surface down in surfing heaven. So much that they could teach me. I'm gonna join them, I'm gonna tell them. Get into it, baby. Get into it. Yeah. Get into it. Do whatever you can. Come on, get into it, baby. Every woman, every man, yeah. Enjoy your life. Yes. Enjoy your life. Yeah. Enjoy your life. enjoy your life.